Hi everyone, want to welcome you to our class today, Finding Your Why. Really excited to be bringing this one to you. It's Glenn Murdoch here. I am the CEO and the founder of the Life Coaching College, and looking forward to helping you guys to discover what your why is, why you're doing the things that you're doing. There is no greater gift you can give or receive than to honor your calling. It's why you were born and how you become most truly alive. I love this quote. There's a lot of truth in there. This is all about honoring your calling and feeling truly alive. But that's not where we start. Because before you can honor your calling, you need to figure out what exactly your calling is. And it's not always easy. Some of us are blessed. We wake up one morning with a great vision of what we should be doing, could be doing. Most people are not quite that lucky. For some people, it can be a struggle to try and work out the why or their purpose. And some people have never even thought about it. They spend their life living in the moment, day by day, without concern about a bigger purpose or the reason why we're here, living this life. If that's you, I hope that this class inspires you to think about your why. We're going to start our journey of self-discovery by taking a look at what this why or purpose is. Because it might seem like a tough concept to define, but I've got some helpful thoughts on how you can define it and a few examples on what it looks like. Then I want to talk about why having a purpose in your life is important. Feeling truly alive is so worthwhile. It's a wonderful goal, but it's more than that. Knowing your purpose in life is freeing. It's powerful. And then I want to wrap things up with a really easy to follow exercise designed to help you pinpoint your purpose and to define your why. Once you know what it is you want to do with your life, following your calling becomes really easy. And we're going to have a look at all of that today. Sound good? So let's move along. It's hard to figure out what your why or your purpose is without getting a really good idea of what this whole concept is about. It's not something that's easily explained because it can be really different for each and every person. My why will likely be different from your why, and your why will likely be different from your next door neighbor's why. In simple terms, your why or purpose is the reason why you get up in the morning. And no, it isn't that you get up because you have to go to your job so you can pay your mortgage. It goes way deeper than that. Your reason for getting up in the morning might be because you love helping 6-year-olds to read. It could be because you love helping people have better relationships. It could be that you want to help people how to grow a vegetable garden. Another way to look at it is that your purpose, your passion, and your why is what feeds your soul. You know what I'm talking about, right? What gives you that sense of fulfillment and happiness when you do it? Maybe it's teaching a 5-year-old how to ride a bike. Maybe it's teaching an older person a new skill that they've never had their whole life. Maybe it's providing hot meals to homeless people. Maybe it's working with puppies and kittens. I don't know. It's that thing that you've got. You'll know what that is, and we're going to help you to work out what that is and to play with it, okay? All of the examples that we've got, they're things that you would do even if you weren't getting paid. Now, if you can find a way to get paid to do them, all the better. But your calling or your purpose in life, it's what you would do even if there was no reward. The personal and spiritual reward you receive from doing that stuff is what keeps you going. More often than not, they're they're things and activities that will help other people around you. it's funny, you know, I like the Tats Lotto question. And the Tats Lotto question goes like this. Would you still do what you're doing now if you won Tats Lotto? Whether it's your job or your hobby or your, you know, it just, to me, it's a wonderful question because it takes that question of motivation into account. So for me, would I still play cricket if I won Tats Lotto? Yes. Would I still run the life coaching college if I won Tats Lotto? Absolutely yes. So you're starting to get an idea that these things that you're doing are your why, they're your calling, if suddenly the money wasn't part of it. Would I do it for free? Absolutely. Would I coach? Absolutely. So it's the calling. Cool? All right, let's look at a few examples. Let me see if I can help you with your purpose or your calling, what it might look like. I've got a big long list. I'm going to just read a couple of them, see if they're helpful. My hope is that one or two things on this list might spark an idea to get you a starting point on finding your why. There's no particular order for the list. I'm just going to run through some stuff. It's not all inclusive. I just want to see whether I can spark a little bit within you, okay? So here's a list of a couple of things that you might find could be part of your calling. Raising happy, healthy kids into adulthood. Knitting Premi hats for your local hospital. Running a support group for addicts. Taking underprivileged kids to the library and help them discover the joy of reading. Growing a vegetable garden and sharing the produce with families that might be in low income areas. Running a soup kitchen. Leading a youth group. Working as a nurse in an assisted living facility. Turning an empty lot into a community garden. This has happened recently in my area. It's amazing. Maybe traveling the world, teaching English. Opening a not-for-profit daycare where young mums could drop off their kids so they could take an hour or two for themselves. Go out, get their hair done, do grocery shopping without the kids in tow. What about running a not-for-profit that provides toiletries to people in need around the world? Creating a YouTube channel that teaches people how to stay alive in emergency situations. Sharing your weight loss journey to inspire others, or whatever else your journey's been. What about making beautiful handmade journals to help others jot down their thoughts? What about working at a small business, some kind of small business company, helping new entrepreneurs start their business for free? Volunteering at soup kitchens or places where you could feed people that are less fortunate than you. What about if you've got a love, sharing a love of painting with others that might have that or want to, you know, build that up? Taking budding photographers out on tours, helping them take better pictures. Running a summer camp for kids who might not have been able to afford it. You get the idea. Just a whole list of examples of finding your why or your purpose and giving you a bit of an idea about how to do that. Don't get hung up on finding something big, okay, to get behind or to build your life around. Start small and see where small takes you. For some of us, our calling will stay small. For some of us, it'll get bigger. You guys get, right? Mine, pretty big. To change the world, one person at a time. That's what we want to do in here. It's what I want to do. So maybe it'll be something you do in your spare time that's going to bring joy to you. Maybe it'll become full-time like it is for me. It might become the biggest part of your life. Both scenarios and everything in between is perfectly fine. The key is to listen to your heart and find out what you're meant to be doing. I also want you to realize that your why or your purpose doesn't have to be massive. Small things like spending an hour a week volunteering are brilliant. So speaking of that, let's spend a little bit of time and explore why finding your why is important and what sort of impact it can have on your life, because I think this is huge. Finding your why and dedicating your life to a calling has a huge impact on you and the people around you. And I sort of touched on this a little bit in that first slide, but it doesn't end there. Having a positive impact on the people around you is so cool, so cool. But where following your true calling and your purpose becomes enormously powerful is in the way that it will affect you. That's right, it can be a little bit selfish here, because some amazing things start to happen when we find out what our calling is and we start following it. Don't be surprised if you benefit just as much, or like me, even more than the people around you that you're helping, because that purpose every day is what gets me so energized. So let's look at a couple of things that will start to happen as you spend time figuring out your why and then start to follow that why. This is powerful stuff, and it's absolutely well worth the time and effort that it's going to take to make it happen, by the way. Firstly, there's a feeling of self-worth. The more time and energy you spend fighting for your why, the better that you're going to start to feel about the person that you are and the effect that you're going to start having on the world. Here's the thing. When we find our calling and we work on something we're passionate about, we do a great job. In fact, we go out of our way to make sure everything is well done. We play it 100%. Everything's right. Everything is a 10 out of 10. It's elite behavior. We don't just put it in the least amount of effort. We do the most we can. We take pride in what we do. We care about it. We care about the end result. Think about some of the things that you do right now that you do for passion. If it's something you enjoy, if it's something that's important to you, then you put a lot of effort in, right? You take care, right? You spend days, weeks finding the perfect answers, years in my case, 36 of them, if you're counting for cricket now. Over 300 games doing this thing that's my passion that I love. And there's a sense of accomplishment for that as well. We all have areas of our life that are important to us. Those areas where we strive for perfection. Just think for a second, what is it for you? Think about the last time you spent time to do it right and to do your best. How did you feel when it was done? Now, if I had to guess, I'd say you felt proud, because it feels awesome to finish something and to do a good job. It feels great, not only to get the job done, but to do it well. There's a sense of accomplishment that we get from doing things at an elite standard. And you guys get, when I talk about elite, I'm talking 10 out of 10. Okay, I'm talking 10 out of 10. So am I an elite cricketer? No. But I'm elite in my cricket with regard to my effort. And I'm elite in my cricket with regard to my intensity and my love. Got it? And I think that that self-worth that we get is a brilliant byproduct from putting in the time and effort to get things done well. Now, you combine that with the sense of accomplishment that we get, in particular if it's helping other people, then you've got a powerful, life-changing combination where you're ready to feel like what you do matters and that you're truly making a difference. And isn't that why you're here listening to this class? Figuring out your why and starting to work towards the path that's going to help you to fulfill your purpose. Because it is incredibly fulfilling. There's a reason I talk a lot about fulfilling your purpose once you find your why. And it's because when you work on what you've discovered about yourself and you start to bring it to those around you, then you start to have a purposeful life, this incredibly fulfilling life. You feel like you're making a difference, your world, in the other worlds around you, the people's lives around you. And that's what it's really about, isn't it? We want to feel like we're making a difference. We're social creatures and we want to make a connection with people. It's what makes us feel good. It's what feeds our soul. It's what keeps us going. All it takes is a project, a task, a person, something that you can get behind, something that makes your heart sing, brings purpose to your day, and suddenly everything in your world is right. You're in a better mood. You're getting more stuff done because you're feeling like you're doing something fulfilling. And the end result of all of that, well, it's happiness. Now, I talked about how finding your why and acting on it will help with self-worth, how it'll make you feel more fulfilled. The end result of that is that you're happier. Who knew that the answer to being happy was to find something worthwhile to do and then to do it? Guess what? It is. It's true. If you don't believe me, go and give it a try. Find something that's really important to you. Ideally, something that will have a positive effect on someone around you or someone else. Maybe it's helping a neighbor. Maybe it's doing grocery shopping for someone that can't get out. Maybe it's paying for a coffee for the person behind you in the drive-thru. Maybe it's having your friend's kids over for a few hours so her and her husband can go out on a date. Maybe it's fixing a bench at your local park. Whatever, something. Whatever it is, plant some flowers in your front yard to brighten people's days. A small gesture like that can bring you happiness. And if it can, and I know it does, imagine how much happier you can feel once you start finding your calling and following it and acting on it and doing things every day that will bring a smile to your face and make you feel like you made a difference. Isn't that worthy of trying to attain as a goal? By the way, caveat, it's not going to be easy. And there are going to be days when you feel like it's not super happy. That's life. That's okay. You guys that are on this call, in particular my coaches, you know how to get into the state that you need to get into anyway to be able to do what needs to get done. And I'm telling you that overall, it is so worth pursuing your purpose and figuring out why you're on this earth. We've all got a limited amount of time to work with, folks. And my personal belief is that you should be making a difference with the time that you've got. Ask yourself the question, are you? Now, let me give you a different frame for this. What happens if you don't follow your purpose, if you don't find it? Because I've talked a lot about the great things that happen when you do, but what happens if you don't? What happens when you choose instead to live life day by day and drudge along on the hamster wheel? I can tell you now that you don't feel happy and you don't feel fulfilled. Instead, what happens is you dread what you have to do each day. You stress about work. You feel like nothing you do makes a difference. And clients that you might have like this will put in hours and stare at the clock, just willing 5 o'clock to get here as quick as it can so they can run out the door, get home and lose themselves in Netflix or wine or video games or whatever it is. There's a reason entertainment and recreational drugs are so popular, by the way. It's because they fill a void left by a life lived without purpose. They dull our senses and they dull the feeling of being lost with life just passing by. And there's a reason that depression and a general feeling of being lost are so rampant. And it's no wonder that people feel depressed when they live their daily life without purpose, without fulfillment, without a way of getting their daily dose of self-worth, self-esteem, and without true happiness. We try and cover it up with drugs and therapy and coaching when maybe all it takes is a little bit of self-discovery, a little bit of action, and a little bit of an effort towards creating a purposeful life. Isn't that worth a try? Isn't that where we as coaches come in to the universe? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying finding your why is the cure-all for everything. All I am saying is be really mindful that this is a huge part of your coaching opportunity with new clients. And with you right now, if you felt or feel lost in what's going on with your life, if you're on the treadmill. Because I'm going to tell you, life changes when you stop living life for the weekend or for the 3 or 4 weeks holiday you get for each year. Because when you live a life of purpose, when you have a driven life where you wake up in the morning and you get started with your goals and your dreams, that's a life that's fulfilled every day. And that's where I want you to take your clients. That's where I want you to be. And that's where we're going to go now. I want to take you through a few of the steps to work out how to do that. And I trust it's going to be a really good exercise for you to play with and to utilize with your clients if you're a coach as well. All right. Step 1. You can't find your purpose or discover your why until you know who you are, folks. Think about what makes you unique. Who are you deep down? Can you narrow it down to just 1 or 2 words? Because that's your goal. You might come up with things like, I'm a teacher. I'm a problem solver. I'm caring. I'm a giver. I'm a father. I'm a mother. I'm a helper. I'm a leader. Once you know who you are, make a list of all the things that you're really good at. Because here's the secret. We get good at things we care about in one way or another. Sometimes we get good at something to win the approval of others, but more often than not, we get good at something because we like it, because it's something we enjoy doing. We get good at maths because we like solving puzzles. We get good at cooking or crafts because we like following directions and seeing how things change when we put a creative spin on it. We get good at repairing things or playing musical instruments because we spend hours practicing. Think about the things you enjoyed at school. Think about the various jobs you've had in the past, what you liked, what you didn't like. Think about your hobbies and how you chose to spend your free time. In the end, I want you to create a list of things you're good at. Walk away for a bit. Come back with a clear mind. Which of the items on that list speaks to you? Which of the ones get you excited? When you find the one thing that you look at that has you brimming with ideas on what you could turn it into, you've probably found a likely candidate for your calling. And then it'll be time to move on to step 2. If you look at that list and you don't, or your clients don't see anything that jumps out, don't freak out. Pick one thing that sounds like fun and move through the rest of the exercise I'm about to do with you. If you get stuck at any point or things just don't feel right, go back to the beginning. Pick something else. Don't force it. Don't force it as a coach. And don't worry. You'll find something that speaks to your why with this exercise. Then we do this one. We find out who you can help with your unique skill set. Because the next step is to see who you can help with all of these skills you've just discovered. Let's say you're a natural born teacher and you love to teach others. You also happen to be pretty good with computers. Think about the different groups of people you could help with that set of skills. You could teach seniors how to use a computer to stay in touch with their families. You could teach high school students about blogging as a creative writing outlet. You could show underprivileged kids in your area how they could use computers at the library to update resumes or find jobs. Let's say that you add a language. Let's say you've got Spanish and you add Spanish to the mix. Well, then suddenly you can start to do this in other areas around the world. Maybe you could teach a class about cybersecurity, keep kids safe, run it in a high school. That's just a few ideas off the top of my head, things you could do with just those 2 or 3 skill sets. Once you start to dig a little deeper and find the segment of the population that want your help, I'm sure that you're going to come up with a ton of extra stuff. Then you get a chance to learn more about the people you want to help. This concept we have of the avatar, the client avatar. What do they need? What challenges do they face? How can you help them take the next step? What keeps them up at night? What do they secretly wish for? These are questions that you want to ask yourself to pinpoint exactly what your calling and your purpose is. by the time you're done with this step, I reckon that you've got a pretty good idea of what you'll be doing and who you'll be helping, and then we're ready for step 3. And here we get to take things one step further. Determine the best way to help your target audience. You know what you're good at. You know who you want to help. Now we refine it a little. What will be the best way to serve your avatar? Let me give you some examples. Let's go back to where we were before. Let's say you're planning on helping senior citizens with computer skills. An online course probably isn't the way to go. Instead, you probably want to connect with them in person. Maybe you want to teach a class at your local primary school and bring them in and they can sit on the computers. Maybe it means heading to assisted living and bringing a few computers with you. I think at this point, it's helpful to start looking at where these people are already. If you're going to work with kids in a school, the first choice might be to look at an after-school program or see whether you can get some time in school where you can go and meet them at the school. All right, maybe it's a lunchtime class. If that's not an option, maybe talk to the teachers and parents or the kids that you might be able to meet and see if meeting a few hours after school at a local community hall might work, or a training centre, or a library. Or maybe it means renting a space around what your calling is. There might be a bit of extra planning there, but you won't know what it takes until you work out what your audience wants, okay? And until you work out the best way to deliver it. You know, whenever I talk about a niche, I always talk about a niche in 3s. The who you're going to work with, the what problem are you solving, and then the how. How are you going to solve it? Is it an online program? Is it one-on-one? Is it group coaching? Is it webinars? Yeah. Then we have this beautiful step 4, which is coming up with a plan to help you to implement. So let's quickly recap. So far, in half an hour, I've taken you through a little process where you'll learn what you're good at, who you can help, and you'll start to get a rough idea of where and what you need to make it happen. Somewhere along the way, you should also think about how you'll be paying for all of this. It might include equipment or supplies or an office or a meeting space. Is it going to be full-time, part-time? If it's going to be a full-time gig, you should also plan on making enough so that you can pay yourself a salary, funnily enough. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where step 4 comes into play. This is likely going to take the longest for you to complete. It's time to come up with a plan that you can implement. Let's go back to that senior citizen example I gave you before. Let's say this is something that you do on the side and you don't need to make a living from it. You just want to help out. You love computers, you like working with older people, you love connecting to them, talking to them, hearing about their lives, listening to the wisdom they can pass on. You're going to teach a class at a local community centre, but sadly, let's assume the place only has one old computer. Plus, you'd really like to show them how they can use little devices, like an iPad, for example, to do email or Facebook or Skype or FaceTime with kids or grandkids that they might not be connecting with. So you've got a couple of options. You can bring your own iPad and work with small groups or one-on-one. You could open the class to people who bring their own iPads. But what about this? What about if you reach out to the community, to local business, and see whether or not you can get some donations to buy some iPads, or see whether or not you can get a sponsor. Maybe your local JB Hi-Fi will sponsor this and might let some iPads out. Maybe a local school will sponsor it. So maybe you can get funky with how you can do that. Could be some other options. So at this point, I now say it's your turn. Think about what you want to accomplish. Think about it in terms of where you'd like to be. What do you want to do? What will it take to make it happen? And please think big. Having this big vision will help you work strategically from the start, and it'll make it easier to scale up down the road. Once you've got your plan in place, Walk away for a little bit. Come back and look it over after a couple of hours. And then work out, what small piece do I want to start with? What's the smallest piece of this puzzle that I could work on right now? And I mean right now, as in as soon as this class is finished. Another way to look at it is to find the bare bones that you're willing to work with. So for example, let's say you'd eventually like to set up a tech center for senior citizens where they come and hang out and take classes and borrow equipment that they take with them. Maybe the starting point would be to grab your own tablet or your own iPad and maybe an old donated iPad and just meet one person at a free venue and teach them how to use the equipment, get them set up, and teach them how to use email or Facebook. And then start writing down your plan and come up with everything you need to do right now to get started. Then get to work. Start implementing. Take action. See how you like it. Maybe you discover after a month or two that working with seniors wasn't your cup of tea. Or maybe you enjoyed enough to start contacting local businesses, charity orgs about getting more equipment and bringing this thing even bigger. Make your plan and then start to implement one little step, one little task at a time. Because fulfilling your purpose can be a massive task. But I want you to keep encouraged with this. It isn't something that's going to happen overnight, but the idea can. And sometimes making small changes will allow you to make this happen. Keep your eye on the prize, folks. Stick to your plan. You guys know life has a tendency to try and get in the way and distract us from what's important. And sometimes plans change. But please make sure it's a choice you make, not a response to things and influences around you if you make that change. Revisit your plan from time to time. Make sure what you're doing today aligns with your goals. Make sure it moves you closer. And step 5, ladies and gentlemen, is for you to realize, last but not least, that this is a journey. And it's going to take a little while to get from point A to point B, because you're starting with what your why, what your purpose is. The end goal is to fulfill that purpose, but not just to fulfill it, but to fulfill it at an elite level, to take it to its biggest potential. And that won't happen overnight. It's a process that'll take some time. But if your why is big enough, then that time will be fun. And if your why is big enough, it might take you a lifetime. And that's okay. What counts is that you're making progress, you're moving forward, and each and every day you're starting to go along the track to where you want to be. Once you find your true purpose, this isn't going to be an issue, I promise you, because you'll wake up every morning thinking about all of the things that you can do to move this forward. Now, little caveat, please don't get discouraged when things don't move as quickly as you'd like. There could be red tape in the way. There might be opportunities you counted on that don't quite work. That's life. These things are going to happen. Keep your eye on the prize, and when life throws obstacles your way, figure out how to get around them. When life throws you lemons, make lemonade, yeah? Understand, and I reflect on this a lot in my business, sometimes even the biggest and best plans change. You might shift focus. You might realize that your dream was a little too crazy. Maybe it was too small. Remember, plans are great, but they're only plans. They're not written in stone. Finding your passion, your purpose, your why, it's part of the journey. Sometimes things will go absolutely as planned and sometimes they won't, and that's okay. As long as you stay flexible, keep your eye on the prize. If you take a wrong turn, that's okay. That's part of life. No drama. If you need to backtrack, that's okay. Because finding and fulfilling your purpose is going to bring you so much joy and so much happiness And as long as you understand that there's not all sunshine and roses, there's a lot, but there's a little bit of hard work as well. I remember I used to have a quote above my bed for years when I was younger. And the quote was, for us to be able to see a rainbow, we need to withstand a little rain. And I think that's a really beautiful quote to think about, because it's so true. To be able to enjoy the rainbow, you need to be able to withstand a little rain, right? And there are going to be wonderful and rewarding days that are going to make all the blood and the sweat and the tears and the effort worthwhile. So, just to wrap it up, step 1, figure out who you are, what you're good at. Step 2, find out who you can help with your skill set. Step 3, determine the best way to help your target audience. Step 4, come up with a plan and implement. Step 5, realize that it's a journey. And folks, the rest of it's up to you. Nothing is going to change until you make the decision to change and you embrace your why and you get to work. That's the first step. Now that you've got to this point in this class, that's your first step. Once you make the decision and figure out what it is you want to do with your life, that's when the real change and the real fun starts. And it's exciting to work on building something that you support 100%. You won't mind hard work. You'll be ready for a really rewarding and exhausting experience at the same time. And I promise you, it's worth it. Remind yourself every day of why you're doing it. Write it down. Hang it on your wall. Condense your why into a few sentences or a collage. Make it a powerful reminder of why you're doing what you're doing. Because there's no greater happiness than the satisfaction of a life lived well and of doing everything you can to help those around you and to be the difference in people's world. And don't be surprised to find that you get just as much out of this as what you put in. We started today with a quote, and I want to give you another quote just to finish off. The purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion and the will to help others. And I reckon that's a pretty good way to finish. As always, it is so cool hanging out with you guys. Have a brilliant, fulfilled day. Get started to work on that why. And I want you to send through for me your answer when you've worked out what is your passion, what is your purpose, what is your why. And I want you to have a lot of fun trying to work it out. I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.